Hey, it's E.B. Moss. I'm head of content strategy at MediaVillage, which is the knowledge exchange for thought leadership by the media, marketing, advertising, and entertainment community. But we're also the home of advancing diversity. It's one of the most important issues we're all facing, making sure that the media that you see or hear reflects the faces and cultures of the real world. And that's why we're here today with this podcast. We're honoring those moving the needle on diversity and inclusion, those making sure that more ages, races, persuasions are all represented and have a voice in the content that we all consume. We're here to help reflect the world and to advance diversity. Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and we are here today with Tim Jones, the CEO of Publicis Media Americas. Tim, nice to see you. Tim, I want to congratulate you on being inducted into the Advancing Diversity Hall of Honors. I know that this is one of many accolades that you've won over the years or been honored with. So I want to spend a little time talking about the environment and the reasons for why MediaVillage and Jack Myers thought that you are helping to move the needle from advocacy to activism.
Of course, and goes without saying that this is recognition of what we've done company-wide, and I'm very happy to be here to receive this award on behalf of our entire company.
I have to say that I think that influence starts from the top down, but I just want to shout out a few examples that I've personally had the opportunity to help amplify on MediaVillage. First of all, I interviewed Bozma St. John at your last Future X Live event for Moxie, and it was amazing to see young women of color in STEM line up just to get her autograph. Then we had an amazingly heartfelt byline published by a woman who attended her first ColorCom, and she ended up starting a chapter of Viva Women for one of your agencies. You have Brian Vaughton-Place, who is tremendous, your SVP of Talent and Inclusion, and Jennifer Randolph, SVP of Talent for Publicis Media Zenith, Moxie, and MRY. And I know that she's hit the 50% goal of having group leadership of women by ahead of her goal of 2019.
Yep.
So with all of that, how have you helped to institute things like that? What's the message from the top down?
Okay, we have an overriding vision, which is expressed in 3 words: trust, talent, and transformation. And a key component of each of those 3 things is our approach towards diversity and inclusion. What we put in place were a number of tenets, foundations on which we could build upon. One of those was the establishment of business resource groups. We have Egalite, which is LGBTQ. We have Viva Mama, which is mothers in the workplace. We have Gen X, which is young professionals. We have MoCA, which is Men of Color Alliance. And each of those groups are there to really act as a voice and a collective center to put forward the needs of each of those groups and to make sure that there is a voice and they are heard within our organization, both at a leadership level and then cascading down through our organization. So those business resource groups are there to activate our plans. The second thing is that we set goals. We track our entire population by the typical demographics, but we also look at diversity and we set goals within each level. So overall within our staffing, and then amongst our middle and senior management and indeed our C-suite as well, we set goals to ensure that we have a really good diverse balance between men and women across all areas of diversity, amongst African Americans and amongst Hispanic and amongst Asian as well. And beyond that, we have other missions, which includes an untypical diverse workforce. So we decided about 4 years ago that we were too dependent on graduate trainees and that there was an opportunity for us to reach out to high schools, to take high school graduates, to reach out to the veterans community as well, for people looking to come back into the workforce, and also amongst the autistic adult community as well.
Yes, and I should mention that that's another accolade, because you're also an honoree of the 13th annual Autism Speaks Celebrity Chef Gala. Sounds very tasteful, by the way.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done through Zenith and Publicis Media for Autism Speaks?
I don't know about you, but your parents say to you, what exactly you do? And then you describe it, and they go, well, that's very nice, dear. They don't really understand what you do. And just on a more somber footing, it's something which plagued many of us after 9/11. Frankly, our office was right down on Houston Street there, and we were close to the middle of everything that was going on, and there was definitely a sense of helplessness across our organization, and many people in our organization left. Many of them decided that they didn't want to live in Manhattan anymore. There was a lot of threats after 9/11 as well. And I got a call from a friend, Mark McIntyre, at VH1, and he said, we're going to put on a concert for New York, which was really to build awareness and raise funds behind the families affected and the first responders, and they were partnering with Madison Square Gardens. They were going to put on this big concert, and they asked whether we would help in promoting it. And that was just a great opportunity for our people to dive in and talk to our media partners across the industry and say, look, we really need to promote TuneIn behind this concert. And in fact, that concert was really well done. It still remains the highest rated show ever on VH1, and it made me think, actually, what we do can make a difference. And I thought about that some more, and were there other areas in which we could support. I was at a fundraiser for Autism Speaks, and I was really touched by the issues that group faced, the number of children which were being diagnosed with autism, and just felt that this is something that we could help provide, give them strategic counsel. And in addition to the pro bono, in addition to the ad council media inventory that they receive, that we could augment that with strategic space at certain times. So we now have a 10-year partnership with Autism Speaks in securing strategic space for them, particularly around World Autism Day. Their Light It Up Blue programs. Yes. When these buildings go blue, we were influential in getting a number of buildings to go blue, including the Empire State Building. And then also they have a series of walks around the country, which are fundraisers, and we promote those in local media as well. There's about 40 walks a year that we do. And again, there's about, I would say, 20 to 30 people within our organization that work on that account, pro bono. But many of our teams have gone through high school and college, and they're told about the importance of social community and giving back, and hey, they can come to a company and they can still realize that. And that model that we have with Autism Speaks and the Ad Council has now been replicated across the Ad Council. So for years they've twinned organizations with creative agencies to produce work for the Ad Council. Now they also twin those organizations with media agencies across the industry. So that's been a real game changer for us.
So you're literally walking the talk. You are doing what it takes to amplify it and also employ autistic people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you finding more receptivity to that type of employment in our industry?
Yeah, autism impacts a lot of people, and there is a complete spectrum. So we're looking for people that have a certain function, ability to work in an office environment, that can cope with administrative tasks. Often they are repetitive tasks which need accuracy and commitment, and we've had a lot of success in that. It's not easy because we have to train our managers to work with in that way, which is a different skill set. But the other really great thing is how many of our managers embrace that and say, yes, I would like to include an autistic adult within my team. and those people have really enriched the culture of the company.
So it must certainly have a ripple effect outside of these walls, because as you build the empathy muscle and you learn to open your arms to differently abled people and accommodate them, then that has tentacles throughout society, not just the media marketing and advertising industry. So in terms of the evolution of things, last year at our 2019 event for Advancing Diversity at CES, you spoke with Jack, our founder, about Publicis Media's diversity and inclusion initiatives then. What's changed? What have you done differently or newly in the last year?
When we created Publicis Media we looked for a cause that we could adopt. And right at that time, the Ad Council was coming out with its signature campaign, which was Love Has No Labels.
Yes.
And we put our hands up and said we would really like to be involved in that. I think the ambitions of that, which was to recognize individuals and specific identity of people, something that we really wanted to promote and get behind and stand in line. So I'm really happy with our association with that work. RGA does the creative for that, and we support with media strategy and other services, particularly in the digital area behind Love Has No Labels. So that's one thing which is really gaining traction. Along a similar vein, we put our hands up to support the See All initiative, which was launched by the ANA and AIMM committee. That featured prominently during Ad Week, and was also showcased at the ANA's Masters of Marketing conference a week or so ago. And again, there, it's recognizing that advertising still doesn't totally reflect multifaceted American consumers, and that really needs to be course corrected and have more accurate representation, inclusion of all segments in programming and ads, including African American, Asian, Hispanic, disabled, LGBTQ, multiracial and beyond. So we're really proud to support the efforts of See All and see those results come to life.
And I know that, I want to bring up something that we've written about. We're about to publish our third article on it, I think, your multicultural talent pipeline.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the first articles that I ever assigned when I started at MediaVillage. And so that set the tone for my great appreciation for Publicis, okay. But I'd love for you to explain that. I think that hearing the verbal of what that is and how that's evolved over the last, how many years that you've done it.
Yeah, we're actually celebrating our 10th year.
Amazing.
This week, and I go to Atlanta tomorrow, and we have a 2-day program in Atlanta. We are expecting some, I think, 130 delegates at that training program. And what we do is, across 2 days, is we talk to them about a career in advertising. This started within Publicis Media. We've now expanded it across Publicis Group. So we also talk about opportunities in our ad agencies and in our data companies and our transformation companies. So we'll talk more generically about the industry, and then obviously we talk about the opportunities within Publicis. It's a fantastic source of multicultural talent for us. Typically, we will hire more than 50% of those people into positions, or certainly onto our graduate training program, which is another initiative. And it's something that I try to attend each year. It's tremendously important for us. It's not easy to address the imbalance in diversity, and you have to come at it a number of ways. And one of the most important is ground up. So if we can increase our catchment capability of bringing in the diverse population through things like MCTP, through our outreach to specific colleges as well, and in specific areas of the country, then we can overproportion that intake, and then the conversion through and the success of those people building within the company is heightened.
Yes.
Obviously, beyond that, you then have to create the conditions for all people to succeed, and we keep a very keen eye on that. As I said earlier, we measure exactly what our profile is across all areas, and we monitor that through each level, and make sure that we're pulling through on those diversity levels right through to CEO.
You know, something that we also write about is we support those that are only 5 years into the industry, so young people in media and advertising. And then we also write about ageism. Are you finding the need to accommodate new attitudes from younger people and include older people in the company as well?
Yes. I talked earlier about how important it is for everyone to have a voice, and obviously leadership usually has a voice. But on an entry level, in those first 3 years where you're really learning the trade and growing within the organization and expanding your network of people, it's really important for those to have a voice. We have a next gen group, and we select our star performers from within that population, and we assign them with tasks to look at, such as mobility, companies' internal communications, where we've learned to communicate in a different way. The first feedback we got from that group was first of all, there were 15 of them, and they started the meeting by 7 of them leaving, because they said in a year half of us won't be here.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So that was a big statement. Yeah. And put up one slide, it had the initials TLDR. And they asked us what that meant. So if you are Gen Y, then you would know that it meant too long, did not read. And they were referring to our internal memorandums, which were typically too long, and therefore I did not read it. We'd send out a communication about a restructure or a new business win, and they said, our generation doesn't look at long emails like that. And whether you believe they should or they shouldn't, is there a better way of communicating? And they said, yeah, video. We relate to videos, and we want to see and we want to hear from the voice of our leaders communicating this. And I took that to heart, and it was a meeting in London that we had, and I flew back to New York, and I had the idea that I would do a regular video to all of the staff, which is rather cheesily called Tea Time with Tim. It's authentic. They want to hear from you, and I'll typically tell them about what's happened in the last month. I'm also doing a series now where I interview, rather like you are with me now, I'll interview some of my direct reports, and I'll talk to them about their career and how they got where they were. So I think that is listening to our people and making sure that not only do they have a voice, but also that voice is being heard.
How are you seeing inclusion and all of these efforts help your bottom line? And what are you seeing in terms of people, planet, and profit?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't an RFP, an opportunity that comes into us which doesn't include a question about our approach to diversity and inclusion. So we are able to talk about all of the things that we've been chatting around, and I think that reflects really well on our company. Any client or partner that comes into our company can feel that. It's on our screens throughout our offices in the US, and we talk about our policies on diversity and inclusion. We celebrate success. We will market all of the initiatives that we make, whether that be the graduate training program, whether that be the multicultural talent pipeline, whether that's the latest work that we've done for Autism Speaks, or for car safety, or for end family fire, goodwill, or finish your diploma. You can't talk enough about it, and there is an expectation from our workforce that we do this, but I think increasingly now from clients. I mean, we work with some of the best companies in the world and in this country, and they all have very developed diversity and inclusion programs, and they also have social community programs, and often we can match up with them. There are specific causes and a number of our clients are behind, so we like to pair up on those as well and support them, and that's been very successful as well. I can think of Lock It Up, That was a very important campaign. And then campus attacks, we've also got behind that as well. So it's one thing, as you said, you need to walk the talk, and actually, executing on these things is really, really important. And then to share those activities and achievements is really important.
In general, for the industry, would you say that the agency has influence over the advertiser in terms of adopting D&I best practices, or do you see it more in the reverse?
Yeah, I think we've seen increasing influence from clients' expectation, whether that's in an RFI or in our long-term clients. They're obviously involved in our policies and our approach. Some are really flagship on that. I would say, for Verizon and Toyota, they're very vocal. And, Verizon was honored similarly last
Diego
year.
Scotti.
And I think, Diego Scotti would say that a number of the policies that we have within Publicis were adopted as well and embraced by Verizon, which I'm really proud of. I think it's two-way now. I definitely feel that agencies have had to catch up, and when we embarked on this probably 10 years ago, I really wanted us to lead in that area. I think it's a mark of true leadership in an industry to be at the forefront of these challenges. As much as anything else, frankly, mm-hmm. as much as share or as much as your long client list or awards. Mm-hmm. I think the work that we do in this area is really, really important and sends a great message out to all of our people and all of our clients.
Okay. Another one of my questions was going to be about the census.
Okay, so I'll go there. If you'd asked me that question 4 months ago, I would have said, one of the biggest concerns I have is with the forthcoming 2020 census. And at that point, there was a serious likelihood that there would be a question on citizenship. And that if you weren't a citizen, you would be excluded from the census. And that has, huge ramifications. I mean, if you're missing, 10% of the population, and in some areas much more than that, and the census is used to look at things like, roadway planning, railroads, infrastructure, where stores are located, where apartments are built, housing, and so forth. If that's inaccurate, what are we about?
Right.
But specifically for us in marketing, for us to be able to account for that multicultural population is absolutely critical. It is our fastest growing, most important segment across the US. So we lobbied hard on that. We partnered with the ANA on that, and I'm really happy that a couple of months ago that question the administration decided to take out. And I do think it points to the tolerance of diversity and inclusion. I think in the US has taken a step back in many ways in the last couple of years. And again, we need those voices to be loud and clear.
So you'll stay loud and clear as opposed to tamping down any points of view about that as a company?
Yeah, I think it's more a case of ethics, being true to the founding ethics of this country, not to getting involved in political debate or gain so much, but really stand back from that and say, is this really what we're about as a country? I came here as an immigrant effectively, and this country embraced me and I became a citizen, and I think America has a fantastic history in doing that, embracing people, whether they're coming here up through opportunity or under duress. And it's a big country. We need to keep growing. I think we need to readopt all of the great things that we've done in the past.
Well, it speaks to the 3 T's that you mentioned at the beginning of this, Tim. Trust, certainly, talent, and transformation. And again, on behalf of Jeff Myers and MediaVillage and all that you've done to transform and to build trust and to grow talent, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Advancing Diversity podcast. It's such an honor to speak with all of our inductees They're inspiring, and we hope that everyone will emulate all of the work that they've been doing to move from advocacy to activism. Advancing diversity takes everyone to create inclusion, and we at MediaVillage really appreciate your listening, your sharing, and your telling everyone about advancing diversity.